The 80-20 Principle. The Secret to Achieving More with Less by Richard Koch. What if everything you believed about success, hard work, and productivity was wrong? What if achieving massive results wasn't about grinding harder, but about doing less? This is the radical idea at the heart of the 80-20 Principle, a book that has transformed businesses, careers, and lives worldwide. Written by Richard Koch, a former management consultant turned entrepreneur. This book reveals the secrets that billionaires, top performers, and the most successful companies already use. That 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. Koch isn't just another business writer. He built his fortune by applying the 80-20 principle to investing, entrepreneurship, and personal development. With a background in strategy consulting at Bain & Company, he saw firsthand how a handful of high-impact actions drive the majority of success. His work has influenced global business leaders and best-selling authors alike, proving that focusing on the right things, not everything, is the key to extraordinary success. Think about it. In business, a small percentage of customers generate most of the profits. In life, a few key habits shape your happiness. And in your career, a handful of efforts create the biggest breakthroughs. Yet, most people waste time on things that don't move the needle. The hard truth, efforts alone isn't enough. What matters is where you direct it. This book isn't about working harder. It's about thinking smarter. It's about identifying the high-impact 20% that drives success and eliminating the distractions that keep you stuck. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, burned out, or like you're constantly spinning your wheels, this principle will change how you operate forever. So the question is, are you ready to break free from the grind and achieve more with less? If so, let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Origin of the 80-20 Principle. The 80-20 Principle isn't just a productivity hack. It's a fundamental law of nature, business, and life. It all started with Vilfredo Pareto, an Italian economist who, in the late 19th century, made a shocking discovery. 80% of Italy's land was owned by just 20% of the population. Intrigued, he dug deeper and found that this pattern wasn't just about wealth. It appeared everywhere, in every industry, economy, and system. A small percentage of inputs created the majority of results. Fast forward to today, and the 80-20 principle is still shaping the world around us. Look at traffic. Most congestion happens on a handful of roads. Crime. A small number of offenders are responsible for the majority of cases. Even in business, a few key customers drive most of a company's revenue. The pattern is so universal that it applies to your personal life too. Think about your closet. You probably own dozens of outfits, yet you keep reaching for the same few favorites over and over again. This isn't a coincidence. It's a fundamental truth. The world is not evenly distributed. Some efforts, people, and actions have an outsized impact, but while most people spread themselves thin trying to tackle everything, successful individuals in business zoom in on the small percentage that truly matters. Understanding this principle is like putting on a new pair of glasses. You start seeing it everywhere, and once you do, you can start using it to your advantage. Instead of working harder, you'll start working smarter, focusing your time, energy, and resources on the things that create the biggest results. The question is, are you spending your time on the 20% that really moves the needle? Chapter 2. Why working harder is a trap. For generations, We've been told that success comes from working harder, hustle more, grind longer, put in the hours, and eventually you'll succeed. But what if that's a lie? What if working harder isn't the answer, but a trap? Think about it. If sheer effort were the key to success, then the hardest workers, factory laborers, janitors, construction workers, would be the richest people on the planet. But they are not. Meanwhile, many of the wealthiest individuals work fewer hours than their employees. Why? Because success isn't about how much effort you put in, it's about where you put it. Consider two salespeople. Jim spends his entire day making 100 cold calls, desperately trying to convince uninterested people to buy. He grinds, he sweats, he works late into the night, but at the end of the month, his sales barely make a dent. Then there's Sarah. She only makes 10 calls a day, but each one is targeted. She researches high-value clients, builds strong relationships, and focuses only on the prospects most likely to convert. By the time the month ends, she has out-earned Jim 10 times over. Same industry, same job, completely different results. This is the power of the 80-20 principle in action. Not all effort is created equal. A small percentage of tasks, decisions, and actions drive the majority of results. But most people get caught in the work harder trap, mistaking movements for progress. They answer every email, attend every meeting, and check every box, yet the actual success barely moves. Real secret? Selective effort. Stop trying to do everything. Instead, identify the 20% of activities that generate 80% of your success and double down on them. The people who understand this don't just work less, they achieve far more. Chapter 3: 80-20 Thinking. How to do less and get more. Most people believe that success requires doing more tasks, more projects, more effort. But what if the key to getting more was actually doing less? Not by being lazy, but by being strategic. This is where 80-20 thinking comes in. Instead of trying to do everything, you focus on the small percentage of actions that drive the majority of your results. Here are 3 steps on how to do less and get more. Step 1. Identify the 20% that brings 80% of results. The first step in 80-20 thinking is recognizing that not all efforts are equal. Some tasks have an outsized impact, while others barely move the needle. Take a moment to analyze your work, business, or personal life. Where do your biggest results come from? Let's say you run a business. Look closely at your revenue sources. 20% of your customers generate 80% of your revenue. 20% of your products account for 80% of your sales. 20% of your marketing efforts produce 80% of your leads. This pattern isn't just found in business. It applies to your time, relationships, learning, and even happiness. Chances are 20% of your daily activities produce 80% of your success. 20% of the people in your life bring 80% of your joy. 20% of your habits are responsible for 80% of your productivity. Most people never stop to analyze these patterns, so they waste enormous amounts of time on low-value activities. They answer emails all day, attend useless meetings, or work on projects that barely contribute to their goals. 80-20 thinkers don't fall into this trap. Step 2. Focus on those high-impact activities. Once you identify the 20% of actions that produce 80% of your results, the next step is to prioritize them relentlessly. Instead of spreading yourself thin across dozens of tasks, all your energy into what actually moves the needle. Think about a professional athlete. They don't train for 10 different sports at once. They specialize. A champion swimmer doesn't waste time practicing soccer. A top CEO doesn't handle every tiny decision in their company. They delegate or eliminate the distractions so they can focus only on what matters most. If you want exponential success, apply this mindset to your life. Ask yourself, which 20% of tasks bring me the most success in my career? Which 20% of clients generate most of my income? Which 20% of my skills give me the biggest competitive edge? Which 20% of people in my life bring me the most happiness and growth? The answer to these questions will reveal what deserves your focus. Step 3. Eliminate or reduce the rest. The final step is the hardest. Letting go of what doesn't matter. This means cutting out the 80% of things that only produce 20% of your results. At first, this feels counterintuitive. Society teaches us to work harder and do more, but high achievers understand that productivity isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things. This applies to every area of life. In business, fire the 80% of customers who drain your energy and focus on the top 20% who drive real profits. In time management, cut out useless meetings, delegate minor tasks, and automate what you can. In personal life, stop giving time to toxic relationships and invest more in people who uplift you. In learning, instead of reading everything, study only the most valuable books, courses, or skills that create the biggest breakthroughs. Imagine two entrepreneurs. One is constantly overwhelmed, juggling emails, running from meeting to meeting, and trying to handle every single task in their company. The other focuses only on high-value activities, closing deals, networking with key players, and delegating the small stuff. Who do you think will win in the long run? The answer is obvious. The ultimate 80-20 lesson. Less is more when done right. Most people waste 80% of their time on things that barely matter. But 80-20 thinkers flip the equation. They figure out the tiny fraction of activities that create massive results, and they double down on them. So here's the challenge. Look at your own life and find your 20%. Identify the small number of things that bring the biggest results and ruthlessly cut out the distractions. Once you do, you'll not only achieve more, you do it with far less effort. Chapter 4. 80-20 in business. How to multiply profits. Most businesses struggle because they try to do too much. They waste time, money, and energy chasing every customer, marketing through every channel, and selling every possible product. But the most successful businesses don't do that. They understand that a small percentage of their efforts creates the majority of their success. Instead of spreading themselves thin, they double down on what truly works. A handful of high-value customers generate most of a company's revenue. A few standout products bring in the majority of sales. A small fraction of marketing strategies drive most of the business growth. The smartest companies don't just know this, they act on it. They don't waste time serving customers who barely contribute to their bottom line. They don't try to push products that no one wants. They don't waste money on ineffective marketing. Instead, they identify who works and scale it aggressively. Take Amazon as an example. They aren't just successful because they sell everything. They are successful because they focus only on what sells best. They track every product's performance and ruthlessly cut anything that doesn't meet their standards. They invest in optimizing their top-selling categories and streamline operations to make them even more profitable. That's why Amazon dominates online retail. Most businesses make the mistake of treating all customers, products, and marketing strategies as equal, but not all customers are valuable. Some will buy once and never return, while others will become loyal fans, making repeat purchases for years. Not all products are profitable. Some might be popular but have low margins, while others might be niche yet bring in the highest revenue. Not all marketing strategies work. Some ads barely convert, while others generate millions in sales. The key to business success isn't doing more. It's focusing on the few things that truly move the needle. The 80-20 rule isn't just a theory. It's a strategy that separates struggling businesses from thriving ones. When a company shifts its focus to the 20% that drives 80% of the results, growth becomes inevitable. Chapter 5. 80-20 in productivity. Work less, achieve more. Most people are busy, but being busy doesn't mean being productive. The real secret to productivity isn't doing more. It's doing less of what doesn't matter and focusing on the small number of tasks that create the biggest impact. The harsh reality is that 80% of what we do daily is either unnecessary, unimportant, or easily replaceable. Meetings that drag on without purpose, emails that don't need immediate responses, and endless to-do lists filled with low-value tasks. All of these consume energy but contribute little to meaningful progress. The world's most productive people don't work harder than everyone else. They work smarter by applying the 80-20 rule to their time. Instead of treating all tasks as equal, they prioritize the few that generate the most results. One of the most powerful ways to implement this is time blocking, dedicating large, uninterrupted chunks of time to deep, high-impact work while eliminating distractions. Another essential strategy is cutting the bottom 80% of low-value tasks, saying no to unnecessary meetings, automating routine tasks, and focusing only on the activities that move the needle. A great example of this in action is Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek. He built a business that allowed him to work only a few hours per week while generating millions. How? He identified the 20% of tasks that produced 80% of his results and either outsourced, automated, or eliminated everything else. He focused on leveraging strengths, doing only what he was uniquely skilled at while delegating the rest. The key lesson here is that productivity isn't about working harder. It's about working selectively. The most successful people don't fill their schedules with endless tasks. They identify the few things that truly matter and give them their full attention. When you shift your mindset from trying to do everything to focusing only on what matters most, you unlock the ability to work less, achieve more, and create extraordinary results with minimal effort. Chapter 6. 80-20 in happiness. How to improve life instantly. Happiness is often thought of as a complicated pursuit, something that requires constant effort, change, or even luck. But what if the key to happiness isn't about doing more, but about doing less? Less of the things that drain you, and more of the few things that truly bring joy. That's where the 80-20 rule comes in. Studies show that a small portion of our daily experiences contributes to the vast majority of our happiness. If you reflect on your life, you will likely find that just 20% of your activities, relationships, and experiences bring you 80% of your joy, while the remaining 80% has little impact, or worse, causes unnecessary stress. The secret to living a happier life is not about seeking more. It's about identifying the few things that truly make you happy and prioritizing them relentlessly. A practical way to apply the 80-20 rule to happiness is by analyzing your relationships. Think about the people in your life. Who are the 20% that make you feel supported, inspired, and genuinely happy? These are the people you should be spending more time with. On the flip side, who are the 20% that create 80% of your stress, drama, or negativity? The harsh truth is that many of us hold on to toxic relationships out of guilt, habit, or obligation. The 80-20 principle teaches us that cutting out or minimizing time with these energy draining people can dramatically increase happiness. The same applies to your daily activities. Think about what truly makes you happy. Maybe it's reading, exercising, traveling, meaningful conversations, or creating something. You don't need to fill your days with distractions or force yourself to engage in activities that bring little joy. Instead, identify the 20% of activities that bring 80% of your happiness and prioritize them over everything else. A great example of this is friendships. Many people think they need a vast social circle to be happy, but in reality, a few deep, meaningful relationships provide the bulk of our emotional fulfillment. Research backs this up. Studies show that people with a few close friends are generally happier than those with hundreds of acquaintances. Quality always beats quantity when it comes to happiness. Another critical aspect of happiness is eliminating unnecessary stressors. Often, a small number of recurring problems, whether it's financial worries, unhealthy habits, or toxic environments, are responsible for most of our anxiety. If you can identify and remove the 20% of stressors that cause 80% of your unhappiness, you'll instantly improve your quality of life. Ultimately, happiness isn't about having everything. It's about focusing on what truly matters. The 80-20 rule offers a powerful way to simplify your life and maximize joy by investing your time, energy, and attention only in the things that bring you real, lasting fulfillment. Instead of chasing more, double down on the things that already make you happy, and you'll see an instant transformation in your well-being. Chapter 7: 80-20 Wealth. How to get rich smarter, not harder. Most people believe that wealth is built through sheer hard work. They assume that the richest individuals work longer hours, hustle harder, and grind non-stop. But the truth, the wealthy don't just work hard, they work smart. They use the 80-20 principle to maximize their earnings, ensuring that a small percentage of their efforts, investments, and decisions yield the biggest financial rewards. One of the biggest financial secrets of the rich is selective effort. Instead of spreading themselves thin across multiple low-impact activities, they focus on the 20% of money-making opportunities that generate 80% of their income. This means prioritizing high-yield investments, profitable business ventures, and income-generating assets while cutting out distractions, unnecessary expenses, and inefficient work. Another key principle the wealthy follow is leverage. Millionaires don't do everything themselves. They delegate. They understand that their time is their most valuable asset. So they outsource low-value tasks and focus only on the high-impact activities that grow their wealth. While the average person spends hours on chores, errands, or administrative work. Successful people pay others to handle those tasks so they can focus on scaling their businesses, making high value decisions, and growing their investments. This is why entrepreneurs and CEOs don't spend their days doing routine work. They hire employees, build systems, and automate processes to free up their time. Their energy goes into big picture thinking, strategic investments, and decision making, because these are the activities that generate the highest financial returns. The same applies to personal finance. Not all investments are equal. If you want to grow your wealth, you must identify the 20% of financial moves that will bring you 80% of the results. This means focusing on high yield investments like real estate, stocks, or businesses with long term profitability, smart budgeting that cuts out unnecessary expenses while maximizing financial growth, passive income streams that generate money without constant effort. A perfect example of this is real estate investing. Some people spend years trying to save money from their paycheck, while others leverage the power of property investment to build wealth. A well-chosen real estate property, just one smart investment, can generate rental income that far exceeds the returns of saving money in a low-interest bank account. At the end of the day, wealth is not about working harder. It's about making smarter choices. The richest people in the world don't try to do everything. They focus on the few things that make the biggest impact. If you want to achieve financial freedom, you need to start thinking like the wealthy. Identify the 20% of money-making actions that will drive 80% of your success and go all in on them. Your 80-20 action plan. What to do now. Most people think success comes from doing more. More tasks, more hustle, more effort. But as you've learned from the 80-20 principle, real success comes from doing less, but focusing on the right things. You don't need to work harder. You need to work smarter by identifying and maximizing the small actions that create the biggest impact. So what's your next move? It's simple. Apply the 80-20 rule to your life right now. First, take a step back and identify the 20% of your actions that bring 80% of your results. This could be the handful of tasks that skyrocket your productivity, the few relationships that bring you the most joy, or the key investments that grow your wealth the fastest. Eliminate distractions and low-value activities. Cut out the things that drain your time, energy, and focus without delivering real results, whether it's mindless scrolling, busy work, or unproductive habits. If it's not helping you reach your goals, it's holding you back. Now, double down on the 20% that truly matters. Focus relentlessly on the tasks, habits, and decisions that create the biggest impact in your career, relationships, finances, and personal growth. By mastering the 80-20 mindset, you'll stop wasting time on what doesn't matter and start achieving more by doing less. Now, I want to hear from you. Which part of the 80-20 rule surprised you the most? Drop a comment below, because mastering this principle could change your life forever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more high-performance insights. Success isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things.